All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Against the Grain monologue series community conversation. I'm Darrell Grant, the writer and director of the Against the Grain monologue project. I reached out to my community, some of the amazing Black artists that are a part of this first part of the Against the Grain monologue series. To get their feedback and just to hear from them of how they're doing right now. And also reached out to my community to just talk to some of my friends and fellow artists to get their feedback as Black men. So tonight is all about hearing and seeing the first part of the monologue series, and seeing those first clips from those first six monologues, and then just chatting with a couple Black guys that are part of my community to see how they feel about where these themes of these monologues land with them. And then we'll move on to that next series. Thank y'all for joining us tonight, and I hope you enjoy the first part of the Against the Grain monologue project. I'm going to open with a trailer video that just shows you a couple clips of everything that we've been working on for this series. So I hope you all enjoy.
The messages, oh my goodness. We really need to tell these stories. These are important stories to tell, and we have to tell them ourselves. It's my fifth trip to the parole board to discuss why I deserve to be released. Yeah, and I know you guys probably heard this a million times before, but I really didn't do it.
Oh, hey, everybody. Hey, 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 hey. Come on in. Come on in here. All right, I'm gonna, let's see, we'll wait for a few more people. Oh, hey, Tasha. Hey, miss you, girl.
Hello and good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to join you all online this morning. They make a conscious effort to actually show love of God to a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Oh my God. My God, I know we're on a Zoom now, but I feel like preaching now.
Portraying Kevin Peters was really powerful for me as an actor. I wanted to make sure that not only was I staying true to the writing, but I wanted to bring the character to life. I wanted it to be a character that people could relate to. I never thought that I would get an invitation to be a commencement speaker as an openly gay male.
I have no weapons on me. Calm down. Please, calm down. I serve for you to work and have the freedom to pull me over.
All right, so that was just a trailer, opening trailer. You saw at the end there. It said sponsored by CNP, the Counter Narrative Project, and NBAF, National Black Arts. We could not roll out this series without them. I was a part of both cohorts this year, just to helping us as Black artists develop individual pieces that and projects that change the narrative and get our work out there. And I'm so appreciative to be a part of the CNP tribe. I'm so appreciative to be a part and a recipient of a grant from NBAF, National Black Arts, to support this type of work. And that's why we're able to continue with this series. So that was just a little trailer that showed you a little bit of some of the highlights I'm going to be seeing tonight. So now I want to bring in our panelists, our guests. If you're free to stay on camera, stay off camera. Right now, we just want your feedback and just a brief introduction of yourselves. So I want to bring in first, as I see on the screen, Timothy Hampton, one of the amazing artists that are part of this project. Timothy, how you doing tonight, sir?
I am well, sir. Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Listen, I'm happy for you always joining us online, because you're always in another country. I know you're overseas right now, and I appreciate you for jumping on, being a part of this project as always.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, and anything I can do to maintain the vigil and further the message and the mission.
Come on. That's what we're all about, sir. I appreciate that. We have John Settles, a fellow, up and coming director, writer, artist extraordinaire. I love working with this brother and supporting everything that he's doing. How you doing, John?
I'm well. It's good to be here. And I'm so happy you invited me to be a part of this.
Come on, Steve. We're always doing community conversations for theaters and all the other projects we work with, and now we're starting to do them for ourselves. So now we get to see kind of what this feels like. So thank you for being here at the end of your day. I know it's been a busy work season for you, promoting your latest film, Fear Not, y'all. You'll hear more about that. It's coming up. So yeah, thank you for being here, John. We have Michael Ward, another amazing artist that I had the pleasure of working with over the last couple of years. As a part of this Against the Grain monologue project. Y'all saw him in the trailer. You're going to see him again as we go into these monologues tonight. Michael, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm all right, like Victoria Monet.
Come on. Come on. Sorry, Monet. Right. I'm glad to hear that. I know it's the end of the day for a lot of us, but we're going to get this going. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really appreciative of that. And then Maurice Graham, like someone that has been a part of my community, that I have mentored, that we've worked together, great businessman, just all around great guy. I'm so thankful for you joining us tonight, Maurice. How you doing?
Good. I'm grateful to be here. Looking forward to learn a lot from you guys and contribute where I can.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to start with a brief question, just to check in and see how are we doing, as a collective, as an individual. How are you guys doing right now with this season, with everything that's going on? We just come off the tail end of a summer. I know a lot of people are getting back into their work season, busy sessions. So how are you doing? How you doing? What you got going on?
Well, I recently immigrated to Belize because I wanted to experience something different, and Mr. Ward, your monologue spoke to me as a veteran in that respect, because it's difficult to serve your country, put your life on the line, and do all the things that veterans do to only one day wake up in Donald Trump's America, where they're talking about giving police 100% immunity in all cases, in all circumstances, and things like that, So I needed a new perspective and a fresh start and a new beginning and a new way of looking at the world. So I moved to Belize, and it's really been a wonderful experience thus far. So happiness, peace, and tranquility to us all.
Come on, happiness, peace, and tranquility. I'm grabbing a hold of that, brother. I need some of that for myself, for real, for real. Thanks again for joining us. And yeah, man, it's always great to have you online. And I think you're speaking to a lot of us here that we need to work on, figure out how we can get that for ourselves. Anybody else want to check in on how they're doing?
I'll jump in. I am just feeling blessed. These past few weeks have been incredible. I celebrated my 38th birthday. I had friends in town that I've known since I was in like 10th grade, and I got to celebrate with Black men and talk about life and talk about what it means to be getting older and aging gracefully, might I add. But starting to have these adult conversations with Black men about taking care of our health and our wellness and our families and thinking of care in the future. And just blessed to be able to again be amongst more of our Black brothers here to do what I love to do and have a message with it. So extremely blessed and grateful, reflective. All of those come to mind.
Okay, come on. That's great, Michael. Thanks again. And yeah, because you've been busy. You've been working this season, brother, and I see it. You putting that activism and that acting talent and that skill set to work. So we appreciate that. We appreciate that. Anyone else before we move on? John, Maurice, y'all doing okay?
Sure, I'll go. Because I'm sure you're probably gonna talk about it at some point. First of all, good evening again, everyone. My name is John Settles. I am an independent creative artist from Atlanta, Georgia. And what I've been up to, really just exploring what it means to be creative in the full sense of the word. Honestly, I have been finding myself on different creative teams in the past couple months. Two of them being I'm a producer for a podcast show now, and the other one being I am a intern for a startup marketing agency, Darrell Market, you might know, and Crowd. I'm a media intern for them, and then there's several other things I'm doing right now, but the main thing I've been focused on right now has been, the promotion and the development of my recent project that's turning into a program. It's called Fear Not. It covers themes of HIV, stigma, and faith. For those that don't know, it's a short film, and again, Darrell and Michael had the pleasure of watching it. And so with that film, I'm turning it into a interactive program where people can come, watch, and we talk about not just HIV stigma, but what we can do as individuals and as a community collective to help reduce that stigma. Whether that's, just checking out language or going as far as talking about political lobbying for HIV funding and the like. So yeah, the next event that I'm going to be having that I'll announce here, special announcement, that I'm working on is doing a evening service on World AIDS Day, courtesy of Calvary Church with Jason Hudgens. So currently working on that. As soon as that's some things in the works, but we do have that date secured. So if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to me. So yeah, a lot of my creative energy has been going all over the place, but I couldn't be happier and I couldn't feel more blessed to be in this position. So
Come on. Listen, and John, you are one of the first ones in this past season to that remind me of my mission. Thank you for that, which is to pour into up and coming and younger Black artists. Man, because you are amazing, you're talented. So anything that you need, I'm there for you. We'll work on what we're doing for the rest of this season. But I'm so proud of you. Thank you for sharing your art with us, for real. So Maurice, how you doing? Everything's okay on your end?
Yeah, everything's fantastic. Honestly, just here to absorb and listen to you guys. So everything's good on my end.
Okay, come on, absorb. Listen, and I know you're giving back too. You're in that season of where you're taking all those things that we talked about over the years, and now you're like, oh, that's what he meant by that, and now you're applying them to younger people too. So I know what you're doing, and so we appreciate you for being here as well. So we'll jump into, once again, this is the Against the Grain Monologue project, and so we're going to see our first block of monologues here, and then we'll come in afterwards and just have a brief discussion about 10 minutes, and then we'll pop into the next block. So I hope you all enjoy. If you haven't seen them, this first set is all about when you lose your religion, or you lose your way with whatever higher power you're connected to. And then the second one is about in need of help. Going against the stigma of staying away from therapy and not telling your problems to people. As Black men, how do we shake that to reach out for the help when we need it? So enjoy this first block.
Uh, come on in. Y'all come on in. I will wait for a few more people. Oh, hey, Tashia. Miss you, girl. Okay, y'all. Y'all come on in. I don't normally share Facebook posts or videos like this. I just feel like someone needs to hear this. Someone needs to know this. I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you, oh my soul. Rejoice, take joy, my King. Yes, in what you hear, let it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear. I grew up singing that song a lot. It always made me feel peace. It made me feel comfortable, like I was wrapped in a soft blanket, like I was in the presence of God. I love that feeling. I long for that feeling again. I don't know when, I don't know why or how, but one day all of that changed and went away. There was this heaviness that I couldn't explain. One day I looked around and realized that the weight of the world and what was happening in this country made me feel depressed and alone. Felt like I had nothing to worship about. Y'all, the last couple of years have been extremely difficult. It wasn't just the pandemic. I mean, it had a lot to do with it, but it wasn't the only thing. Let's talk about how being black in this country was already hard. But man, I mean, lately it's like I've been under a microscope. It seems like my blackness offended so many people. My desire just to be in this skin sparks tension and makes people feel uncomfortable. Y'all understand, I've been black my whole life, but that really hit differently as I watched George Floyd's murder. As he called out for his mom, the little boy inside of me cried out for my mother. There are times when I wake up and I can't do anything but sing songs that I have been or that have been in my head or have been in my head all week or maybe some songs that pop up for that day. Then there are times where I can't open my mouth and say anything, and there's an internal soft worship. I'm a worshiper that has gone through some things, a worshiper that feels things. I love God. I love to worship. Sometimes it doesn't come out in a song, it comes out in service to others or a dance or a painting. I want to encourage you to never get stuck in one type of worship and never feel like something's wrong with you when you just can't do it. Just as sure as we are breathing, you will always have a new song to sing. As you get older and change, you will see that your worship will evolve as well. Never be afraid to sing your song.
My mom always told me to not tell anyone else my business. And by business, she meant the things that I was going through or what I'm feeling or any challenges or struggles or hardships that I might face. All those things I'm supposed to keep to myself. Funny thing is, the older I get, the more I realize it's just the opposite. I should speak about the things that bother me. I should speak about the good, about the challenges that I face, the hardships, and I should absolutely 100% ask for help when needed. I was in need of help to silence the voices that I hear in my head. I hear them all day from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. They're saying things to me, whispering my insecurities and shouting the lies and making demands and telling me all the things that I can't do. I need help to get past that. It's hard out here for a Black man. Sometimes that pain, it takes over. And I feel the depression set in and I feel compressed by the weight of it all. But I don't want that anymore. I don't want that to be my reality. So I decided to change it. Despite how I was raised to not talk about my issues with anyone, I decided to start seeing a therapist. And it's the best decision I've ever made. So yeah, that was our first set. The first piece was a piece called Getting Back to Worship, performed beautifully by Derek Wilson. And the second piece was yours truly. I jumped in to perform I Need Help. So just want to go around, and that first question that we have for everyone is, have you ever experienced a difficult time or a season where you couldn't turn to your religion or higher power for help? Has anyone ever experienced those type of moments?
Yes, I'll go. 'Cause y'all got me crying already. Um, 'Cause I know there was something about therapy in there, and those are beautiful. But for me, 2017, um, for me was like the start, I think, of my journey to getting into therapy. Like I ended a very public relationship, and it was like one of my very first adult relationships. I was 31, and I had no healthy coping skills. Like my coping skills after relationships was go out, get drunk, you know, go find somebody new, all of those things. But I was dealing with like family issues on top of like work issues on top of life issues on top of a breakup. And I just knew like I did not want to continue the pattern that I would go down because I think at that point I already knew like I can go out and do all of those things that are not healthy for me, or I can find another way to be able to express my feelings. Now, it wasn't easy getting back into therapy. This was like my second try of actually going to therapy because, like the monologue says, it was I don't want nobody in my business. I can handle this on my own. I'm the strong friend. People come to me. I should know how to do this. I'll be fine. But there was just something internally in me, call it spirit, intuition, universe, God, whatever that it was, that just was saying that it's okay for you to ask for help, you know, like that I need help. This is something beyond me. This is something beyond me going to my Bible, going to my go-tos. Um, and so I called one of my really good friends, shout out Melanie. I've also known Melanie since sixth grade. And I asked her about therapy and how do I get into therapy and how do I find a therapist and all of those things. And like, are they going to tell my business? That's what I want to know. Are they really going to be able to, tell what I say in this room? And that started my journey in therapy. And I know that may not sound like appealing to most people, again, that we're raised, what happens in this house stays in this house. But therapy, beyond giving me a place to like land my feelings and name my emotions, it also provided me with the tools to be able to identify what it is. And when I recognize it, how do I change a perspective about it? How do I think about it differently? Because the old ways wasn't working. So why not try something new that's healthy? for me, and it's tools for life that I'm able to tap into. But it most of all, it's a continual journey. I've been in therapy now for 7 years. I just talked to my lady on Saturday of going through some things, but I really had to lean on someone else and tap into that higher power to say that you have ordained people and this is their ministry, and you have given people these gifts to be able to give me the tools and the resources to be able to take care of myself mentally, right? Just as I work out, just as I exercise my acting muscles, all of these things, the brain is an organ, it's a muscle. Your mental health needs to be tended to, shepherded, stewarded, all of these biblical things that we say, right? Because the mind can play so many tricks on you. I'm getting churchy, all of those things now. But just getting back into therapy, and even I would say recently, how it's an ongoing journey is like even in 2022 when I lost my grandma, which was like grief, right? Dealing with grief, holding on to grief, and also ended another relationship in the same year of like, oh, I got to talk to the lady even more because I recognize it, I know what it is. So even still, it's a continual journey on this path of healing and evolution, and it's not a destination for me. I'm always arriving to a different version of myself. So that's just one example. I know a lot of people preach therapy, and I'll throw this in as well too, because I'm privileged to have insurance. How we were throwing it back to America a little bit earlier as we started. I am privileged in America to have insurance and a job that assists me with healthcare. But just know, even if that's not a viable option for you, there are resources like Open Path or other free therapy resources that you are able to use to get these things out of our head, either onto paper, into someone's chair, or put it in art somewhere. So don't let access be a barrier to you. I understand financially, we're all going through it right now, but there are resources, linkage to care, other things to help you get on the path to therapy with everything that we're going through. So
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that, Michael. And you were, first of all, I want to say congratulations on you having the courage to say, I need help, because I had to do the same thing myself. And then you beautifully married the two, why I put these two monologues together, because sometimes if for those of us that are, religious or have a higher power, or those of you that may not be, sometimes I always say I need both, in my opinion. I need God, but I also need a good therapist. So I kind of put those two together for someone who might be struggling, may not be struggling on the religious side. They might be struggling on the saying I need help side. So anyone else want to share an experience about struggling with either one of those two, or what was the catalyst to get you saying I need help?
Mine was actually September 11th, 2001, on this illustrious anniversary of that day. I was living in New York at the time on the North Shore of Staten Island on a hill called Ward Hill. And my brother called me and said they just flew a jet into the World Trade Center. I went to the end of the street where I could see downtown Manhattan in the World Trade Center, and I saw the second plane hit, and subsequently stood there with my mouth gapped open until both buildings were gone. And, there was an Arab couple celebrating on top of a car, man and woman hugging and kissing. And, there was no worship. There was no praise. There was no forgiveness. There was only rage. There was only disappointment, confusion. As a veteran at that point, I had gotten out of the military after many years. And I was really upset. And I was really disappointed because there was a war that was going to ensue. And a whole lot more people were going to die, and it just stirred up a lot of things in me. And, and having a conversation with my mom shortly thereafter, I don't know how long after, she said, you haven't been right since you came back from Desert Storm. I recognize it. I raised you. You're not the same person. And I had to be told, you need some help, and up until that point, I didn't know. I had no idea, which is more dangerous, I think. Because if you're messed up and you have no idea that you have these problems, and you need to be told. So, and then you need to listen and say, okay, I accept. I've got some problems here. I've got some issues I need to work out. And you need to humble yourself and say, I'm not the smartest, most powerful person in the world that knows everything. And perhaps I should seek some help with all this rage and this rage addiction and this 0 to 100 in 0.2 seconds, So I did that. Luckily, I had the VA. And they were more skilled by that time in dealing with these things than they were when I got out in 1991 from Desert Storm. So they had some resources for me and some things that I could do, some people that I could talk to. And, it worked out eventually. It took a long time. It's been a myriad of, different therapeutic journeys, but it worked out. And it is necessary for people to get help and not try to handle things, or worse yet, bottle it up and just be like that man thing. I'm just gonna handle it, So yeah, these spoke to me in that way. Both these monologues, I couldn't. There was no worship on September 12th. There was no praise and no forgiveness on September 13th through however long it was until I got some help, and then normalcy eventually returns, but the journey is real.
Right. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Timothy. And just, you're going to help so many people just from saying that and standing in the gap by saying that, hey, it's different for a veteran to go through that type of experience and then to have the VA, but then also there are some people that may not, like you said. And you mentioned it's a journey, and it's a journey for a lot of us in different ways. So I'm grateful for where you are in your journey and that you are here with us tonight to share your knowledge on this theme. So thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Anyone else on the two before we move on?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else I can add than what already hasn't been said, but I always think it's an interesting conversation when we talk about religion and therapy, because for a lot of people, religion is their therapy. And, going to church every week, that is how they, release, that is how they, talk about their problems, either through prayer towards God or, whatever religious figure you pray to, or talking to the pastor who might be the therapist, right? And I have a feeling that some people that I personally know would probably say that, their pastor is their therapist. And so I'm always curious to know, you know, what people do when the pastor does something and they are not seen as the therapist anymore, when something happens with them and then all of a sudden they're not seen as just this one figure, but now they're seen in this different light. Or, if the church decides to shut down or move or something, then it's like, okay, well, what do you do? So I'm always interested about it from that perspective. And I'm also just interested whenever people talk about how, because, all of us being Black men, we've all heard like, just pray about it, from our mother, grandmother, somebody, and that just be the end of the conversation. If you say like, oh, I'm dealing with XYZ, whether that be anxiety, depression, ADHD, whatever, right? It's always usually just, oh, just pray about it. You'll be all right, So yeah, no, I mean, in relation to the monologues, though, I'll say is very interesting that you put them together, because I always feel like religion and therapy are sometimes like the two sides of the same coin, but can be also be at the same time different coins, Whereas like on one hand, again, it's like some people go to church and that is, their therapy and that's where they release everything. And some people, do go to a therapist and in addition to church. So yeah, just some food for thought for, anybody that's watching, and also for my fellow panelists as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that, John. I think for years I kept them separate. I was trying to, I needed one or the other, but you made a very good point of how we do, and we're told and brought up to think that we put God and the church at the head of our lives and that's all you need. And as we get older, you might be like, I might need to talk to someone, whether it is a therapist or a mentor or someone else. You're finding those other resources. So thank you for bringing it up. Maurice, you have anything to add?
Personally, when I was younger, you and Michael were kind of my therapist. I placed the church at the head, as you said, being raised as a pastor's kid. That was the way I was taught to operate. But once I got into my 30s, I found out that is not a way to live a productive and healthy life. So now, with my faith and with good therapy, I'm balanced now. And as you all know, life throws us so many curveballs, especially now. I'm kind of glad I had that foundation with you and Michael in the first place to show me that, hey, it's always good to have your faith. But in my opinion, our higher power gave us doctors for a reason. They gave us medical knowledge for a reason. And psychology and therapy, that's just another side of medicine. That is very important. So I do want to encourage anyone listening to this to definitely check out free resources if you can. If you have insurance, to please look at therapy or to talk to someone if you're going through anything.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for that. And I think for all of the young people that I've kind of mentored over the years, they will know there's a difference between Pastor Darrell and kind of therapist or mentor Darrell, because I feel like sometimes you got to take off that pastor hat and snatch somebody up and be like, hey, listen, you better stop doing that. So yeah, it's you definitely need both and have both. So thank you for bringing those two together. You all are doing a great job. We're going to move into the next set of our monologues. And like I said, they're all going to be under 10 minutes. These next two, with the familiar face, both of the familiar faces on the screen, put your two together, Timothy and Michael's piece. We're going to first watch the Wrongfully Convicted piece performed by Timothy, and then the Protect and Serve piece performed by Michael.
So I just sit here and talk to the screen. Yeah, I see him in there. Is there any way to make it bigger? Okay. I really don't know where to begin, so I guess I'll start with thank you for your time. I'm here. This is me. Everybody else gets all dressed up, best clothes. Lawyer might bring him a suit and tie sometimes, a pair of glasses, make him look more educated. I just didn't have the energy to get all dressed up, just to be rejected, denied again. This is my 5th trip to the parole board to discuss why I deserve to be released. Now, I often sit and think about how my family was taken from me. I think about that one night, that one moment in time, and my life changed forever. I am the definition of the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, and I know you guys probably heard this a million times before, but I really didn't do it. Shouldn't y'all be able to take a sample or something to see that I really wasn't there that night? I didn't do it. Shouldn't my lawyer be pushing for this new type of discovery and testing? I guess that's what you get with a public defender, huh? You know, it's hard when everyone you know and love has accepted a lie as the truth. They have all moved on with their lives. But in spite of that, I have hope. Yep. I have hope. I have a feeling of expectation that something great will happen. I have hope that one day I'll be represented by facts and not preconceived notions. I have hope that one day I'll be free from a system designed to keep Black men like me locked up. Man, y'all don't know the hell we go through in here. This place gets to you emotionally, especially when you're innocent. This place has traumatized me more than anything I've ever had to deal with in my life.
Are you sure this will help? Just talk about what happened that night. All right. Here goes. As I was coming down Peachtree, I saw the officer get behind me. He turned his lights on right away, and I pulled over. I knew the expectation, so I pulled out my license and I handed it to him as soon as he approached the vehicle. Look at me. Look at me, my hands is up. I have no weapons on me. Calm down, please, calm down. I just want to take the time to talk to you. Is that okay? I'm a Black man in a nice car and in this neighborhood, so I knew you were going to pull me over. But do you see the uniform that I'm wearing? Do you see in the documents that I submitted that I'm actually First Sergeant Larry Jones of the U.S. Army? It's hard for me to show up and put my life on the line, to serve a country that don't serve me. It's hard for me to show up and have belief in a system that was not built for me. I then looked at the officer and I said, as I sit here with my hands up and you have your hand secured around your weapon, I want to ask you why you serve. Do you serve out of fear? Do you serve for power? Or do you serve to enact your version of justice on Black people that you feel need to be policed and punished? I see you loosening your hand on your gun. How about you take your hands off of it completely? Have I said nothing or done nothing to show you that I'm not an actual threat to you? Man, I just came home to see my family after being deployed for 2 years. Man, I just came from being passed around from department to department fighting for the resources and the assistance that I need. I just got back from submitting yet another damn form.
Yeah. So that's our second set. Beautifully done. Wrongfully Convicted, performed by Timothy Hampton. Protect and Serve, performed by Michael Ward. Two actors that I'm always just amazed every time we get to work together. But this second session here brought up this next set of questions. So, how do you feel knowing that a huge number of Black men are wrongfully convicted of crimes they didn't commit? And then a subset of that is, Black veterans that have served our country are not exempt from being profiled by police. So if you don't have anything to say about Black men that are wrongfully convicted, you can tag on to that second monologue with, do you know anyone that has experienced that, being profiled by police as a veteran? So how do you feel about that, guys?
As far as Black men being wrongfully convicted, I was speaking with my son, who has just recently been freed from the prison industrial complex for something he says he did not do, and I believe him. And you don't even want to use the word committed when you talk about the crimes that they're accused of, because that's a very heavy word for some of them, because they haven't done these things. And once they get their hooks in you, though, it doesn't matter whether you did it or you didn't do it. What matters is how much money you have, what type of lawyer you can afford. The first lawyer I spoke to in reference to my son 8 years, 10 months ago, wanted a $40,000 retainer. And that's justice right there, or the start of it, So, yeah, the wrongfully convicted are numerous. They are far too common. And, I know everybody in prison probably says they didn't do it, but there's a percentage of them who have not done it, And as far as, being recognized as innocent, or the individual who has not done it, or the plea bargain, which was in the opening paragraph that you showed, the plea bargain system, very few cases actually go to trial anymore. If all the cases went to trial, the system would grind to a halt. That whole plea bargain thing with the scare tactics and everything, they really worked that on us, and yeah, that's awful. And the prison industrial complex is horrible. It's a shame. As far as being profiled as a veteran, I remember coming back from Desert Storm weighing 220 plus, solid, strong, as a rock, and being profiled by a little bitty Caucasian police officer with a badge and a gun that I would have stepped on like a bug in any other situation. But he lorded all this status over me because he had his little tin badge and his little pop gun and his, his spray and his handcuffs and his radio and all that kind of stuff, and they do things and say things to rile you up and to make you react, and, so that they can do and say some more stuff to you to get you in more trouble, and they profile us, they abuse us, they talk down to us, they talk dirty to us, and they say whatever they want to say and do whatever they want to do. And we have to be the bigger person. Yes, sir. No, officer, thank you very much. After all this abuse and disrespect, So, yeah, as a veteran and an individual who's been profiled by police officers of all different colors, creeds, and, as we all know, sometimes the Black ones are the worst ones, yeah, it's an extremely frustrating situation, because once you're profiled by that individual, then you could be the Robert James in there for something you did not do, So, yeah, that's a horrible situation, and it's almost a lose-lose.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Timothy. And that quote that you talked about in the opening of Wrongfully Convicted, it came from the Innocence Project, who's, the organization is doing the work at the forefront of trying to get these cases retried and trying to bring attention to a lot of those, men, Black men and men of color that are wrongfully convicted. So thank you for that. And I'm glad that your son is out and that he has you to fall back on, because we've been chatting about this and that you've been steadfast and letting him know that he's loved and letting him know that you believe him. And I know that's very important for his journey. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say a quick something. One of the biggest fears that I have is this happening to me, right? I've been blessed and lucky enough to not have this happen to me yet. And I hate that I live in a time where I have to say yet. Because, and I also think, just speaking as like, I think the youngest person on this panel, I'm 24 years old, that because of one incident, my life can literally be over before it even begins. And regardless of how polite you are or how nice you talk, it's like they see this and they see this, and then it's like, oh, okay, end of story. So imagine my surprise or lack thereof when a presidential candidate then says those same people can get immunity from anything that they do. And it truly makes me wonder about the future health of the country that we reside in, should something like that ever happen or come to pass. And we can talk about it, we can make art about it, we can do all these things to bring awareness and all these things, we can suggest defund the police, we can do all these things, and yet we still find ourselves having this same conversation year in, year out, year in, year out, year in, year out. And I truly wonder what the solution is, if there is even one. I'll tell you, again, just in this moment of vulnerability, that stuff like this is why I honestly don't want to have children, because I don't want to have this talk with them. Why would I want to bring my children into a world where this can happen to not just them, but your dad, your grandpa, your cousin, your sibling, your whoever, So I truly wonder, again, just what the solution is, if there is even one, that doesn't resort to anything extreme, as the answer. Because again, we can talk about it, we can debate, we can do all these things, but I truly wonder what is it we can do to make sure that we keep ourselves safe and keep our neighbors and those that we love safe.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, John. I appreciate that. Michael, I saw you on mute earlier.
Yeah, I think history leads us a lot of where we are presently, especially when it comes to state violence and policing in America. And I think the more that we look at these questions, right, and we present this art, that looking at history as to the origins of these things can be very helpful in looking at what solutions may be. I still have a lot of questions, not enough answers to it. And I know even actively in a city like Atlanta, there are forces and money being put into more policing. Um, and it just blows my mind when it comes to that aspect. Even as we sit here and we watch videos of recently with Tariq Hill, and uh, you and I, there had a conversation of doing the piece of like looking at history of like men serving for America and coming back and living under Jim Crow South laws. And here today, like you said, that we're still having these conversations. I think history as well has a way of repeating itself without us realizing it, and knowing whose shoulders that we stand on. So I lift those people up, and as well to the prison industrial complex. I will say as well, one of the only times that I have seen my father break down, like unconsolably crying, was when we went to visit my brother in prison. And the process of visiting someone in prison is one of the most humiliating things that I have ever had to experience um, as a brother. And so I can only understand what my father uh, was feeling as we left, to see someone that you have brought into this world in chains by their hands, by their feet, having to ask as a grown man to do any and everything that we do freely outside of those walls. And I can only imagine for those people who are wrongly convicted. And again, like Timothy said, you don't have the money and the resources, or you don't see a way out of those circumstances to be able to defend yourself, fight for yourself, and feel like you're heard and seen within that system. And furthermore, when you come out, right, of having this topic of recidivism, of how do you acclimate to a society that is rapidly changing? I remember when my brother was released from prison, it was like, what is a smartphone? What is face? Like, it is literally like being in a whole other country, another world, being capped off, made to work, and sheltered. Um, and so, like, looking at that, and even as I talk about it, it just I hear it, I see it, I smell it. I remember all of those things of being there, and to just see lines and rows of black bodies lined up that way. It is something that I will never forget. And even the aftercare of, like like you were saying earlier, Darrell, of loving on your children after that experience, loving on your family members after that experience of like going through something like this, of being wrongly convicted. Throw it back to therapy and grief counseling and trauma, because my relationship with my brother was forever changed after that experience. My relationship with my father was forever changed after that experience of having that. So it just still in today, where we literally within the last week have just watched another instance of excessive force by the hands of police for something as simple as a traffic infraction that requires all of this. It just, again, like you wrote in that beautiful monologue, that why do you serve? Do you serve out of power? Do you serve out of fear? Like, why does it take all of that? And even and I'll get off of it, but even to the point of having children, I know that you're young, John, and you don't foresee what life will bring you, maybe children, of that. But that's the reality of it. And I remember when I started driving, my mother having to sit down and have the conversation with me, because I'm from Texas and from Florida. And my mother had to have the conversation with me. If a white officer stops you, you put your hands on the steering wheel, you say yes sir, no sir. You ask before you do anything. You move very slowly. And I don't know how many other people have had to have those conversations with those children. I don't know how many sleepless nights my mother must have had of hoping and praying that I came home, right? When I walked out of that door. So even still, as we sit here and have these discussions, I'm still filled with hope, but we can find solutions, and that's what I have to cling on to. But this is why this work is so important. And yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Michael. Y'all all bring some very good points home. Maurice, anything you want to add before we jump into that last piece? No? Yeah, because I can speak. I was going to actually bring up your name because, Maurice, you brought up like knowing me and my husband for a really long time, but just knowing you knowing you since you got out of high school, you gave me a lot of good practice for now. I'm a father of a 15-year-old. I can't believe He's 15 now, God. So a lot of those thoughts that you said, John, things that you said kind of steer around in my mind all the time. I parent him differently, knowing now what I know now. Like God made me a parent at the right time, because I'm very intentional about the type of work that I put out. Him being a part of these monologues as I was, recording them and workshopping them. The teachers at the school and its principals and everybody don't understand why I advocate the way I advocate. I'm like, y'all, he is a young Black male in this America that we're living in now. So I'm going to be hard. I'm going to be in y'all face when y'all come at him the wrong way, or if y'all don't do what you're supposed to do, because this one is not going to get lost in the line that you're pushing everybody else through. So it's different. Me being a Black male in America versus me being a Black male parent in America. My God, not John, I feel you, because that's my fear every day, especially now, with school violence and things coming up. It's not just the thought of something happening to my child while they're at school, the thought of my child being a Black male. Are they going to protect him the way they do the other ones? Is he going to get caught up in them thinking he has something to do with it because he's Black? Like, it's just so many different things living in Gwinnett that I think about. But I thank y'all for bringing up and sharing your vulnerability with us. And John, we'll work on that. You'll be in my life for a good long while. So your kids will have a great mentor. Okay. Okay. So we'll work on that. But we're moving into the last block of monologues. Thank y'all for sticking with me tonight. These last two, we have one called Proud Speaker, and the other one, the final one, called A New Thing, where we get to go home with a good old word from Pastor Clarence Baker here, played by Robbie Miles.
Hello, class of 2020. I'm ecstatic to be with you here today and honored to be your special guest. I'm Kevin Peters, founder and CEO of Community Impact, a national organization dedicated to providing health information, education, and resources to underserved communities. I know an online graduation with a virtual speaker is not what you expected, but I'm glad I could hop online to celebrate with you. My journey started right there in those same halls that you walk daily. It's my hope that as you leave Mountain Valley High School, that you are always prepared by expecting the unexpected, even in yourself. Never count yourself out, even when the outlook doesn't look great. Always believe in yourself. Something happened earlier in my life when I first started the organization. We were leading a grassroots campaign for HIV and AIDS education in a Black community not too far from Atlanta. I was young and still in the closet because I felt that no sponsors or businesses would fund our program if they knew the whole truth about me. I'm here to tell you that the day I had enough courage to truly be myself and discard the lies that had been told to me as a gay Black man was the day that my life changed for the better. We had a 5-tier program model to explain how we intended to reach Black men that needed our assistance. We even had a transportation component to engage those that experienced barriers in reaching our clinic. I mean, it was a great presentation. At the end, as I sat there feeling so proud of what our small team had accomplished, the head of this multi-million-dollar company, a Black man, said, yeah, that sounds great. Everything sounds awesome, but we are a company that stands on principles, and we would love to get behind the type of work that you're doing. However, we believe that supporting an LGBTQ plus community program that is talking about HIV and AIDS prevention would be better served if it was led by a member of the LGBTQ plus community or someone who was living and thriving with AIDS or HIV. Throughout his entire statement, I began to turn in my seat. Until that moment, I had concealed my personal life and status and kept them separate from these types of sponsor presentations. At that moment, I gathered enough courage to ask the businessman, what if I told you this effort was created by and will be led by a person that identifies as a gay man and is actually HIV positive? He responded, "Well, I would love to meet that person." I then extended my hand and said, "Nice to meet you. I am Kevin Peters, the founder and CEO of Community Impact." So, class of 2020, if you remember nothing else from my time with you today, I pray that you all enter the world being 100% yourself. Please don't feel the need to put on a cloak or disguise. Live in freedom. Always expect the unexpected for your lives. You all deserve every good thing coming your way.
All right, there we go. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us online. Amen, amen. I want to start by saying that it is an honor for me to be here today as your new pastor of New Horizon Missionary Baptist. Amen. I'm grateful that we have this virtual space to join here today during these difficult and strange times. I know a lot of you all would like to meet in person, but we must be cautious of gathering in public together, okay? So I thank you all for joining here online, and I see some people still logging in. Praise the Lord. Come on in. I know Sister Gladys is letting everyone into the Zoom room. Yes. Now, I first want to talk a little bit about myself and who I am. Then I want to talk to you all about the vision that God has given me in preparation of leading this body. Amen. Is that okay? All right. And as always, I want to start out with prayer. I want you all to make sure you read John 10:13, okay? It says that the gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to him. He calls on his own sheep by name and then leads them out. And that's exactly what happened to me. That was my exact experience when God called on me. See, I was laying down and I woke up an hour later than I was supposed to. You know how you just lay down and you just like, I just need a few more moments of rest. You're just like, Lord, give me 20 more minutes. See, I was laying down and I heard, Clarence, get up and sing. I got out of bed. I looked out into the hallway. I ran all around the house and there was no one there but me. No one. I went back into my room and I just felt the love of God fall over me. And I began to weep. He called my name and gave me instructions. He cared for me so much that he called on my name. He was intentional. He is intentional. And there are people out there who don't know that they are God's chosen people. They don't know about 1 Peter chapter 2. There are so many people that are just so hurt that they don't know that God just wants to grab them in from out of the darkness. And that's where we come in. Wake up in the morning and just sit and listen. And then make a conscious effort to show God's love to a member of the LGBTQ plus community. God is doing a new thing. Are you going to be a part of this? Or are you going to miss out? May God bless you. And I'm excited to get to work.
That was it, guys. So that's the last set of monologues. The first piece, we had Proud Speaker performed by Brian Smelly, and then we had A New Thing performed by Robbie Miles. put those two together because it's LGBTQ plus, a gay man trying to find his way and not realizing the strength that he's always had within himself. It took him a while to get there, but now he's reflecting on that strength as he, is a commencement speaker at a high school that he went to. And then having a Black pastor be gay affirming. I think, that I've never seen that growing up. So I definitely wanted to throw that in there, because what would happen if a character in Proud Speaker was, encouraged earlier on by a man of faith like that Black pastor, like Pastor Baker. So that brings me to our final question as we share our final minutes together tonight. Why do you think that LGBTQ plus Black men, you saw that quote, are heavily involved in community organizations and heavily involved in uplifting their communities that they live in? So why do you think Black men are heavily involved in community organizations, and would more gay affirming Black pastors, or Black pastors in general, would it be easier for LGBTQ plus men to be accepted by their families and communities if they had, more pastors to stand up behind them and speak up and support them? What do you all think about that?
I will gladly go first on this question. I will gladly go first on this. I think that we volunteer so much because we don't get the community that we find within our own families. So we have to literally build it from the outside in. And on the flip side of that, sometimes, for some people, the only ways that they can find community is in a bar, somewhere, or, in places that it may not be the most safe. But yeah, I think we volunteer so much because we really have this longing for community, and we'll, go to all these different communities to find that one community that we know will accept us, that will love us, that will, actually make us feel seen and heard and understood in our fullness and in our totality, right? That, we don't have to come as just 75% of us, or just as 60% of us, or half of us, or even less than that, right? It's this yearning for this space where we can just come and just be and just exist, in our full selves, in our just in our full selves. And as far as the religious aspect, I think it would be a huge help. I won't say too much about it, but because this is kind of like my purview with my project. But what I will say is that it would tremendously help, because, my God, how many gay people go to church, and either know, or people that don't know that they go to church, like it could be after congregation, you don't know. But it goes back to conversation too. Is just like, they exist in the church. They are your choir directors. They are your choir members. They are your congregation. Some of them your clergy. Some of them your staff. And either you, and it's this interesting cycle of we can serve the Lord, but not like that. Or you can serve the Lord, but just not as this version of yourself. So I don't know. It's just always an interesting conversation that I always love having, with anybody. And so I'm very interested to hear what my other guests and panelists think as well.
Thank you for sharing that, John. And you're doing a lot of that heavy lifting and a lot of that good work with your film Fear Not, which is now turning into a program to kind of bridge that gap and open those doors, right, for us to talk about LGBTQ plus issues within the church. So thank you for doing that, especially in your line of work with your film with lowering the stigma for HIV prevention and education. So I appreciate that, and for you being here tonight and sharing your thoughts on that. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, I sought community because I felt I was the only person um, that was like me. And I feel like growing up, I was othered a lot, right? That I was called different, I was called weird, the abomination thing of church. And I was extremely lonely growing up. even though I was surrounded by a lot of people and all of the things, and I did the things, I recognize now my therapy journey, shout out again, therapy, that I felt very lonely. And there was always this hole, this gap for me of like, there has to be other people who are like me. There has to be. And I was able to find the first community for me I found was in books, right? And this is why I'm a champion of the arts a lot, right? So reading literature, right? James Baldwin, Elin Harris, James R. Hardy. Um, I found in books that I was not the only one, right? And as I went to performing arts school, and I grew up and I was like, oh, there are other people who are like me. I want to find community in that, right? And so I think with regardless of how you identify, all of us want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be loved. And especially from what we went through during the lockdown of the pandemic, because we're still in the COVID-19 pandemic. But I think lockdown really showed a lot of people like loneliness really is is a problem, and so many of us are lonely, and we crave that connection, and we craved human touch and interaction when we were deprived of it. I shouldn't say we, but I statements on that. So I think loneliness for me is why I sought community and for the peer support, right? Especially as a Black queer person, again, growing up in Florida, where we see everything that is going on right now politically, where they're trying to erase LGBTQIA people and the history to the present, that it was peer support for me. I was learning about dating and relationships and sex and all of these other things that I was not taught in a quote unquote traditional setting, right? So community assisted me in learning to navigate what that looked like, best practices, all of those things that community served for me. And again, representation, knowing that I was not the only person, that it was not wrong, there was nothing abnormal about me, that God loved me and created me in his image and that. And so I think when it comes to church, yes, I think that it would be a beautiful expression of love to preach love and not the messages that I was brought up in under the Southern Baptists of love the person, hate the sin, all of that, or you're going to hell, that doctrine, right? I would have loved, like you say in that piece, to be able to told at 11 and 12, 13, 14, some of my formative years of coming into myself, that you're okay, God loves you, made you in his image, and that it's about love and acceptance of that. So I would love to see more of that. I'm going to keep it very brief and short about that, but very powerful work, y'all.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I also, that's where these pieces come from. It comes from me wanting to hear some of these affirmations and some of these things as a, young Black male growing up. But also, I think our allies, need to hear these young Black men that are growing up now. They need to hear the message of inclusivity now because they're growing older to be Black men and a part of community and society as well. So thank you for that, Michael. Maurice, anything for you to add or Timothy?
I consider myself fortunate to have, had Black queer pastors, and I would say it really helped with my self-esteem. So, I'm a part of a different faith now, but I think it matters in all faiths to see yourself represented. That's just a part of allyship. So, just keeping it real brief. In my life, it has made a difference. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to jump on real quick. This is a quick story. When I was 12, 13 years old, my brother had a coworker. And this coworker was of the LGBTQ community before it even had that name, before this was a community. It was just an innocuous group of people who were stigmatized. So, but not in our house. For one reason or another, it was fine. So about the age of 15, I was raised as a Christian, and raised with the Bible and the Word and church and everything. And about age of 15, I struck out on my own to find my own church home. I was going to be grown. And I walked into this church, one of the larger churches in my community at that time in Michigan. And there was this friend, of my brother, his co-worker, member of the LGBTQ community. I embraced him, gave him a hug, patted him on the back. How you doing? This, that, the other thing. The next day, I was outed. All through high school. The next day, Monday, I was the gay kid. I hugged the gay dude in church. I was out. It wasn't even in. Okay. So there was all this stigma placed on my 15-year-old pubescent, passionate mind about something that I was not, because I was in a place of worship. It was supposed to be a place of love and acceptance and giving. And now my life is a nightmare because I did exactly that in a place where that is supposed to take place, and it soured me on the whole experience. I have to admit, it's like, this is what it is, this kind of hypocrisy and, this kind of vehement, disdain and marginalization because I, showed love to a friend of the family in a place of worship. So that's, we're talking about inclusion and, this community in the church and being accepted and being able to worship and praise freely. And, that was a long time ago. I'm probably the oldest person on this panel. And that was a long time ago. And I'm happy that these conversations are now taking place so many years later, because that was a really bad experience for an innocent teenager that had no idea what the deal really was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Timothy. And I think that's why I threw in there the importance of our allies also, seeing this type of material and being a part of these type of panels. And as Black men, my vision for this project in the future as we continue to build out the next group of monologues is that we can continue to come together as Black men and have these type of conversations and see ourselves in the monologues and see our friends, like our brother's co-worker, in the monologues, and see our sons in the monologue, our fathers, Michael, in the monologue. I want us to continue to do that because the previous generation, I think they're coming around now with talking, but a lot of times growing up, they didn't really share with us a lot. So now we're kind of coming around to the point of sharing more stories. So the more so we can do this with our art, that's the point of doing this piece. And I thank y'all for giving me your time tonight. Please send me your cash apps. Of course, you know me, I'm always trying to give people a little gift of appreciation. So drop me your cash app tonight so I can send you a stipend just for joining this panel tonight. Please. I see your head, Michael. Yes, do it. So I can say thank you. But also the next round, all the monologues are live now on YouTube. You see it there at the bottom, Artists of Color Atlanta. Artists of Color Atlanta on YouTube. We're also Artists of Color ATL on Facebook, but I've been sharing them on my personal Facebook page, which has been the best kind of forum for us to get these out to our networks. Like I said, we've been averaging about 75 to 85 views per video for now, just to get them started. They've been coming out weekly. So we're going to work on that next set and get them out to the public. So I want to hear from you of things that you want to share with us. If you run across a monologue written by a Black male that you think we need to include, send it to me, or for my artist friends, if you write one that you think wants to be included, send it to me. It's just a way for us to not just get these themes and highlight the Black experience, but also to talk to Black artists and highlight the amazing work that some of the Black artists here are doing in Atlanta. And I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you for being a part of my tribe. Thank you to Counter Narrative Project. Thank you to NBAF National Black Arts. And that was it for us tonight for the Against the Grain Monologue Project Community Conversation. Thank y'all for sharing with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Y'all have a good one. And we're done. Okay, come on, fireworks. Bye, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.